All right, so we're gonna start. How many of you guys like to increase your average sale price? Right. What does that look like to you? Can you tell me that? Tell me what would you like to be at from certain price? What is your average now? You like to go to what? $2 million? Would you like to go to $1.5 million or $3 million? Just name some numbers off to me. Okay.
I'd like to get up to $1 million.
Okay.
One or two over it.
Sounds good. All right. Who else?
Million to 2.5.
2 to 2.5. I like that. Okay. Currently, your average price is 1.2. Okay. And it goes 2.5. Who else? Anyone else? Yeah.
1.8.
Okay. Awesome. That's a very set number. I like that. 1.8 to be your average price. Excellent. So we're going to talk about that, some of how you can get there, and also we're going to talk to you about what is some of the secrets to get the high-end listing, luxury listing. Today we have Eva here with us. She is from New York, Westchester County. She also does business in Connecticut as well. So you want to tell them a little bit about you, how long you've been in business and all that stuff.
Sure. I've been in business for about 18 years, 17, 18 years. However, full-time about 12. I like to say I was pretending to be a real estate agent the first 4 or 5 because I was still working my other job. Fast forward to now, I've been with EXP for just about a year and a half. I've been able to icon twice in the year and a half, which I'm very proud of. We do about 75% of our businesses in Westchester County. Market is very similar to here, Short Hills, very comparable. We also do surrounding counties and Fairfield County in Connecticut. We average about 35 to 40 million in volume a year. I have a small team. My son's here on the team and here with me. We consist of 10 people. Only 3 that sell though.
And then talk to us about your average price at your area that you serve.
So I cover a really broad area. And because I have a team, I'm able to service different price points. So if you're looking at just the average price point in, say, White Plains, you're only looking at about $600 to $800, for single-family homes in that particular area. However, if you're looking at our average price point and you're just looking at our single-family homes, not condos and co-ops that we do as well, we're looking averaging between 8 and 9. And that is also because we run the spectrum. The luxury markets that we serve include the river towns. A lot of people coming out of the city love to go there. Scarsdale. There are parts of White Plains that are a little higher end than the rest. We cover towns like Pleasantville, Rye. We really run the gamut on different towns.
And Rye is the average home price is starting at $3 million, right? Easily.
Well, so even all of the areas in Westchester County have their little pockets of,
right.
800 to $1 million
Sure.
too.
Right.
But it is not uncommon to go anywhere from 3 to 5 in towns like Rye. We sold something in Pelham this year for just under $3 million. On a quarter acre of property. It's all about the location in the house.
Yeah. So I know that you didn't start it to do luxury listing. How did you get? I know I didn't.
You started in luxury?
I didn't start in luxury.
Oh.
I know I started in lower price point too.
Oh.
So how did you build yourself up from where you were and to today, to get to this market?
So obviously I've been in the business a little bit, right? So when you have 12 years to work with, it's not so hard. You just inch up, inch up, inch up. But looking back on it, I can see the things that really worked for us to get that increase, how to, get higher numbers. And, the first thing is, let me say this. I remember when I got my first listing. Who here? Do you remember when you got your first listing? I was panicked. I didn't even know how I was going to be able to manage getting it on the MLS, handling this social media, doing the open house, never mind negotiating, because nobody even talks about that. All they talk about is get your first listing, get your first listing. So it's the same thing as you hit new levels. for me at least. You know, my first home was like that. It was a $650,000 home in the town that I lived in, and it was my best friend. And then, you know, from that you build to, you know, you build credibility, you build all different things from that point. And I remember when, you know, the first $1 million home was a milestone, and then the first $2 million home was a milestone. And then, you know, I think after 2, maybe I'm wrong, I think you go a little higher than I do. Maybe after 3, it's all the same, I don't know. But it feels that way for me now. So I think my word of advice would be is, you know, evaluate what you did, the first deal you did, and then apply it to what you're looking to do here.
It's interesting that you say credibility, right? So how did you build your credibility with all the high net worth potential client that you may have?
So I think part of that is just being who you are. You cannot fool people. So I didn't grow up in a $5 million house. That doesn't mean I don't know how to sell one. So partially being who you are, because you have to build trust. High net worth people want to trust the people they work with. And if they can't trust you, they're not going to let you list your house no matter how good you are. So I would say, you know, first trust, first being who you are, and then maybe, you know, building on what you've done, the properties you've done. And I'm guessing there are people here that maybe haven't done it yet. So you say, well, how do I do that? I don't have any $1 million listings or $2 million listings. You surround yourself with people that do. You learn from people that do. You hang out with people that do. And that's how you get into the right space to be able to, you know who you're talking to when you're going after higher end listings.
I just want to get a sense of the audience, like where you guys at your price point. So how many of you guys sold over $1 million? Over 1.5? Over 2? Over 2.5? Over 3? Over 3.5? Over 4? Okay. So, by the way, you guys make sure you guys know Molly, and she's back there. So she's here to learn. That's all. But she saw some amazing property, and definitely get in touch with her and talk to her as well. So generally, you know, most people average price point is probably around like 800,000, right? And you really want to focus, like you want to have a niche, like identify that niche, what that is. It could be, you know, it could be someone that, you know, you want to really work with, like from, let's say, hey, you know what, I want to concentrate on new constructions, right? That's a niche. I want to concentrate, hey, I want to get in touch with like people who's in sports, in the entertainment industry. But from there, you want to make sure that you really just from there focus, okay, so how do I get into those niche, right? So identify, so once you identify, so let's say entertainment's like industries, like, hey, you know what, they have to work with manager, right? They have talent agency. So you want to get to know those people as much as possible, right? Yeah.
Also, if I could just add there, your niche should be something that you love. You know, if you love sports, then it would make sense to make, you know, to go after a niche like that. Or if it's a niche that's, you know, very common in your area, so you travel in the same circles, you can learn, you know, about that specific niche. It shouldn't be something that you just pick out of the air. Like,
Correct.
Oh, I want to work with, you know, movie stars, and I don't know any of them. They don't live by me, you know.
Yeah, definitely. Like you need to enjoy it. So let's say you love golfing or skiing.
That's a great example.
All right. So those two things, those are not inexpensive sport to participate, right? So each time you go to play golf, it's XYZ. You have to have a membership and so on and so forth. Each time you go skiing, again, you have to make sure you buy ski lift tickets and all that stuff. So those things you want to making sure that, hey, you know what? Okay, so if it's golf, or tennis, that's another thing, right? I'm just picking certain things up that you need to enjoy it, that you can actually able to relate it to it. Because if you cannot relate to it, your client, they're not going to believe what you said. Like paddle tennis or something, right? So we belong to a tennis club. So, you know, John play more than I do. So he's the one who's getting more involved. And people also constantly ask him, like, what's going on in the market? How's it going? We don't even bring it up. We never do. So that's one of the things that you want to really find yourself where you want to identify yourself, where that niche is for you, and then really hone in on it. John.
One idea too is that when you're doing these events that you like to do, and I know you have a lot of it, but when you wear swag, right? Like I have a lot of guaranteed rate hats, golf balls, golf shirts. So people, when I play a lot of golf, they'll ask, "Oh, what do you do? What's that shirt?" And then it's like a warm lead right there.
Yeah, definitely. Your branding is very big, and I think we could talk about that too.
I was gonna say, it's not required that you're good at whatever you pick, but like for me, if it was skiing, I'd be on the bunny hill. I might not have a lot of credibility with.
Yeah, you don't have to be good. No one's asking you.
You don't have to be good, but
for instance, for skiing, right? You may not be good, but you know what? You can take a break and you go into the lodge house. You
I
gotta
lodge
have,
very well.
and you gotta have a cup of hot chocolate or maybe whatever drinks you have. You happen to sit down to someone next to you, also maybe not so good at taking a break, and they might be like selling a house that's $3 million, right? So, or you go to play golf, like you go to the country club or be a guest. Listen, you don't have to be members on all these places. I just want to make sure you know. Just know people who's in it and get invited to go there. And once in a while you actually are there, they see your face, they can remember that. Okay. Of course, if you can afford it, definitely something that you may want to consider doing. But again, I'm not asking you to spend money to sign a membership. I'm not asking you to join Maple Country Club or Crestmont Country Club or Canoe Country Club, all the different clubs that's available here. Know someone and just say, hey, you know what? I'd love to go to lunch with you at the club. And you know what? They always would say, hey, you know what? Sure, come along. Hey, you know what? Let's have dinner. Let's go to dinner at your club. Very easy to have
And
that
what you just
conversation.
did, Simon, is you knew what the country clubs were. You don't have to be members, but you have to be able to, if somebody brings it up, to know what you're talking about.
Right.
So that's important, and that's free. That's something you can, research yourself, go visit, pretend like you're going to book a party there, and go on in and check out the place. There's ways to do things for free to become more knowledgeable, and every conversation you have, in my opinion, can lead to business, or it usually does lead to business if you approach it in the right way.
And also with all the different clubs you go to, you can just go visit it because they actually like you to go because then you can actually help them to get more members. So again, there's also different way of saying, hey, you know what? If I bring you XYZ member, blah, 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 would you work something out, right? Learn how to think outside the box, right? So that's really important. So let's talk about, we talk about, like John mentioned it, about branding, right? Generally, actually, I would have my LuxeLife stuff on, but John has it on most of the time.
We have this.
Yeah, we have this, right? So we're really big on branding, and Eva is too as well. Talk to us, how does that make a difference?
So we're getting there. We're not as good as these guys, but we're really lucky to have them as an example. Oftentimes I look at what you do and I decide, this is something I want to do. I'm going to copycat. Don't be afraid to copycat. It's okay. You don't have to reinvent the wheel for something like that. But I do think that whatever your branding is, it should be consistent. I think it should be refined if you're looking for a luxury level listing. One of the things that I think I'm really good at is I can hang like in the, kind of dumpiest of places and have wings, 10-cent wings, or I can go to a fine dining restaurant. I just know which one I'm going to before I get there and dress and act appropriately. So same thing with branding, you're branding you. So if you're looking for luxury listings, you probably don't want to brand yourself in, a sweatshirt. Maybe if you're like Steve Jobs and, you could get away with it or
But
some
that's,
other.
That's true. Like
Yeah. But
you can do whatever you want.
I don't want to put my son on the spot, but we often talk about when he's going on listing appointments with me, what's appropriate to wear and what's not appropriate to wear based on where we're going and what listing we're going after. So up your game a little bit if you're looking to be in the luxury market with the way you look.
And also, when you do your branding, let's say you go do a logo or whatever you want to do, just step back, look at it to make sure, does that really kind of talk to people who have high net worth, right? You don't want something that's too busy. You don't want it to, like sometimes people just put everything onto that logo, right? You want to simplify. Like a lot of
Yeah.
times simple is better, okay? And also ask people opinion. It's okay to ask people opinion. Like you may do like hire someone to give you 15 logos, lay it out on the table, and have everyone comes and say, hey, you know what? Why don't you come over for lunch or something? And hey, you know what? Can you vote on which one you like the best? Generally, everyone's gonna gravitate to one particular one, and that's probably the one you should go with, right? Because
Yeah.
people will tell you that, hey, this is too busy, this is too much space, and realtor always have opinions. Our friends always have opinion, right? It is the best people to get because then you get represent yourself having a logo that makes sense, all right?
Yeah.
We are really big on branding, so you can see we have tons of swag, right? But from all the way down to bottom, from a box, we have our branding on it, okay? So also what we did that this year for the holiday, we even go all the way out,
Did on the box as
did
well.
on the box as well. Well, from the inside of the box, I'll show you something else. Everything inside also have the branding, all right? So, and this goes to every single one of our VIP client. This is not something expensive to do, but it's worth it. Do it, copy it, duplicate it if you
I'm
like.
taking notes,
Take
Simon.
notes on it, okay? Because people will be remembering. People are still talking about it. As of today, we gave this out maybe in December like beginning of December, and we had a holiday event, appreciation in January. People talking about it. When I go to the appointment, people talk about it, and it's just people remember things. So you want to step it up, okay? It's just always think of the next steps. Like how can I make myself be different, right? You have all this realtor who's listen. Everyone's gonna want to get into a luxury market. Everyone's going to do high price point. How can you make yourself different? Make yourself stand out. That's really what you want to do. Okay.
I think also if you're looking at logos and branding yourself in a new way, you want to look long term as well. What's going to last and grow with you? So for us, we're EMC Homes, and it happens to be my initials, Eva Marie Casoria. It also stands for Every Move Counts. It's very simple. It's short. And as we've grown into more of a luxury market, we started color changes. Just the palette of colors changed, but I didn't have to change the actual logo. And I didn't really do that purposely back then. But thinking about it, I've seen some of my colleagues have logos and branding that didn't work as they grew. They had to change it. So if that's something that you can, look forward towards, I think that's helpful too.
Yeah, and also I also think like when you do your branding, I think we used to actually spell out a whole name, Simon Westfall-Kwong Real Estate Group, and blah blah blah. And at one point we're like, you know what, that's starting to get too busy. People know who we are, and I think it's almost nicer to do simplified. So we went and we switched it to SWK Real Estate, and then from there we switched it to LuxeLife Group, right? Because of the different branding
Yeah.
that we have.
I-
So
Not to belabor this point, but I actually thought I should have done the opposite. In the beginning, I thought, oh, I should have used my name. Nobody knows my name. What am I doing? And then as time went on, I was kind of glad I hadn't used my name because then as I had the team, it worked better.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think using acronyms or initials are much better than using your full name. That's just my thought. And also, it's actually, it looks and feel more expensive.
yeah.
Just remember, like how, like look at Gucci, right? They don't really spell on all the items. Their logo is, the opposite G, right? So same thing. Just think of all the high-end luxury places, how they do their logos. That's how you want to portray yourself to be. Yeah.
Just on the note you were talking about, like using your name, if down the line, if you ever go to sell the business, it's hard to sell with your own name on it. So yeah.
Yeah, think the long run, right? Yeah, absolutely. You want to make sure you have broader audience as
Yep.
well, right? So from there, let's talk about how do you generate your lead generation, your top 3 sources.
Well, so It's no secret that I like to talk to people, right? So networking has got to be my number one way. And I'd say for me specifically, I've built a pretty strong business agent to agent referrals. At one point in time, 75% of my business came from another agent from another state. And to the point of how do you grow from regular to luxury listings, you start hanging out with the luxury agents because they usually know luxury people who are then going to refer luxury listings. So you're never only doing just one thing. You're always kind of integrating. So I'd say the second we do charity events. We like to attend charity events. We get invited often. Sometimes they ask us to sponsor. So there you are in a room full of the people you want to make your client. And not only that, you're sponsoring, so you're being generous in the process. So I would say fundraisers. And then, I don't know if this falls under what you're talking about, but actually hosting events, ourselves is the newest piece of what we're adding into our business. We are looking to, do some higher end events for past clients because our past clients have friends and they love us. So, we think that that's a good tool that we have underutilized thus far to get in front of more luxury clients.
Yeah, I think doing events, especially people who like you and trust you, that's number one that you want to concentrate in. Especially if you sold them home that's in the $2-3 million, guess what? They have friends who's also in the same caliber, right? So get to know them really, really well, and always don't forget to stay in touch with your past client. A lot of people say, hey, you know what? They're not gonna sell like another year, 2 years. They just bought this house. Guess what? The higher market, the more luxury you are, the more high net worth people they are, they tend to like buy secondary homes, or they tend to switch to a different house or go to a bigger house. So don't shortchange yourself not to stay in touch with them, because you'd be surprised. We have clients who just move in certain house and now they're ready to sell again in 2 years. So always think of that to making sure that you stay in touch.
That is so true. It's so surprising. How many people here have done multiple deals with one client? Right there is the answer. So staying in touch with your database, and we do a fairly good job of it, working on making it really 110%. But to your point about, I think storytelling is also part of what you're talking about, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can tell a story and it resonates either about a client that you have right now. I just had a client that I think originally you might have connected me to the agent that referred it to me.
Oh, look at that, see?
Yes. She bought in Dobbs Ferry, and she bought $1 million property. And this year, we sold that property with her for $1,450,000, and she bought a $2 million property down the block. Who thought that she was, and it came out of, hey, I saw this. She called me, because I stay in touch. I drop pies off on Thanksgiving, and I stay in touch. She called me and said, hey, I see this property in Dobbs. I really like it. Let's go see it. And we didn't get that one. And then she kicked herself in the butt because she didn't go aggressively enough, because she certainly had the money. And then another one rolled around, and I thought, for the moment, oh, she just loved that house. She doesn't really want to move. I was totally wrong. She really didn't like her neighbor, and that's why she was moving. She didn't tell me that. But by being there for her, we ended up getting triple sale in less than 6 years.
Yeah, that happens very often. Someone may also, please remember, always treat everyone the way you want to be treated. Okay, that's really key. When someone come to open house, or if they have their sweatpants, baseball cap on, that doesn't mean that they don't have the funding. Just making sure to just talk to them just like another human being. And that have happened to us. We went from buying something that's $800,000 to selling the house, go to 1.2, went to 1.5, went to 1.8, went to $3 million. So transactions have happened for many times. So you really just want to make sure everyone you talk to, just making sure you have the same conversation. and it's really to making sure that you treat them with respect, and they will make sure they give you the same respect back. But when you ever turn your tone down, say, oh, you don't really need to sell that. You have so much money. Forget it, you're done. All right? It doesn't matter how much money they have. It's not your business or my business, right?
Yep.
It's really you're there to help them. You help them to guide them through a process. And they're looking for you as a professional for advice. So be that person. Give them the advice that you need. They don't need to hear things that they already know. They need to hear things that you can provide data, information for them that they need to know. Also, I should say storytelling, making sure that you know all the different markets that are out there. If you want to be in the luxury market, study your market. You need to know inside and outside of that market, from $1 million to $5 million. You need to know what's went under contract, what's sold, what they listed for, what they sold it for. Because when you go to events, opportunity comes up and say, oh yeah, my neighbors down the street at this house just sold. It's like, oh yeah, I know the house. It has like 7 bedrooms and 5 full bath and have an acre of property. Yep. And boom, 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 boom. Once you can
And you have to be, so to that point, because you just reminded me of something, a little bit of a lost art in our area, the broker open house. There aren't as many agents doing them. But I used to go to them routinely, and I oftentimes went to homes that were higher priced than what my clients were looking for, because I wanted to get familiar with those homes. And I remember it distinctly. I was in a Starbucks. Go to places in the areas you want to sell luxury homes, by the way. You can have a Starbucks in my area in Yonkers, or you can have a Starbucks in Pleasantville. You're going to have totally different price points. So I'm sitting in Starbucks, and the people next to me are talking about this property that I had just previewed. But I didn't say, oh yeah, I just previewed that house so I could learn all about it. I said, when I had the opportunity to start chatting with them, I said, I know the home. We had somebody interested, and, we checked it out, and we started a conversation. So have some material to start a conversation and be in the right place to have that conversation.
Yeah. It's always the right place at the right time. So you need to stay in touch, always. And events, you mentioned events, and the other thing is that you need to know the right people. So you should write out a list of people that you need to know, or who they think that they know. Then you get to get close to them. You only really need 5 people in your life. That's the most important. And those 5 people, so you know more people, and those people will know more people. And once you get to know that, you build your network. You build your, that's really key.
Yeah.
We know each other from, in the real estate world. We become close friends, and we know a lot of people, and we know a lot of people who work on the higher end market as well. So you want to stay in touch with all the luxury agents as much as possible. Go to all the open houses that you can, especially on the high end. Even if you don't have a client, just go see it, because they can remember you, get to know you, you get to know them. You never know how referral business work. Seriously.
Not to mention, you want to know the agents that are representing those homes, because when you do have a client, it's so much easier to negotiate with somebody who knows your name. They're not like, Eva who? You want to be able to go up and say, hey, it's been a little bit, but how have you been?
Yeah.
And Simon and I, literally, I think the first time we spoke was because you were giving me a referral.
I think so.
It wasn't your referral, but he didn't know me. He only knew me because of mutual people that we both knew
Right,
and respected. Yep. So that's what Simon's talking about. 5, 6 people branches out to 12 and 18. And then eventually you develop your own relationships with the people that you end up being really close with.
Yeah. And the other thing is that go to, if you can do it, if you have the time, if you do have the funds, go to some of the mastermind that's out there that's offered from, and don't go to the same one, go to different ones, right? Because you want to meet different people. You don't want to meet the same people over and over again. You want to meet new people and build a relationship and get to know them, and that's how always referral come through back.
I used to, before I was with EXP, I used to do classes in Queens and Brooklyn that were offered in my market center. But I went to Queens and Brooklyn because I wanted to be the only Westchester County agent in the room. So I wasn't, I mean, I was going for the class, of course. I want to be educated and learn. But I was going to meet the people. And I grew a big referral business from Queens and Brooklyn because I did that. So look at different ways to maximize the action that you're taking because it can have multiple purposes, you know, now or down the road.
So you mentioned about, you know, getting to know the luxury agents that's out there. They might have a listing. So let's talk about that, right? So let's say you do have that opportunities and you happen to bring an offer in, or you're the seller. How does that look? How does that look for you? Like, how does that look different than a regular, just a regular transaction?
So I mentioned earlier that nobody talks about negotiating when you first start out and pretty well into your career. There really isn't a lot on just negotiating. And I think, you know, when you know somebody that is part of a transaction, an agent in particular, you've already built in some trust. You know, I have a good reputation, so that helps. But then meeting people in person, agents in person, they trust me more than just hearing a name. So when I go into a negotiation, I'm having a conversation first. By the way, I'm never sending an offer without talking to the agent. You know, I see agents that do that to me all the time. They're just sending me a written offer, and, you know, I would never do that. But based on that, I call, I have a conversation. How have you been? Blah, 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 blah. General conversation about the house, the area, the et cetera. My clients love your home. You know, we're planning on putting in an offer. What can you tell me about, you know, the house? Is there anything I should know before we do that? People talk. It's amazing how much people, agents and people talk. So I'm always talking, I'm always listening, getting them to talk, versus I don't know the person, they don't know me, you know, then you have like this whole like honeymoon period of getting them to warm up. So if you meet them at an open house and you've had conversation and then you see them again somewhere else, and then it's almost like putting up your signs everywhere and you only have one listing. I remember that happening to me when I first got my license and somebody said, "Oh, you're all over the place." I'm like, "Well, my signs are." But, you know. It's the same thing, I think, when you're networking with listing agents, if that's what you meant. I don't know if you wanted more specifics, but.
So I'm going to flip the coin a little bit. So now I'm going to say, hey, you're going for a listing appointment. As going for a luxury listing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. And what do you do? How do you talk to the seller? And how can you secure this listing? Do you do anything differently with marketing? Do you give them a different strategies? Talk to me about that.
I don't do anything different with marketing and or strategies. However, I do analyze who I'm talking to and then tailor what I think is important to them. I'm always going to give top-notch marketing. I'm not going to say to my $500,000 house, who might be my $3 million someday, that, oh, we only do this. I'm not a big fan of that cafeteria plan. I don't know if you guys do that, but, you know, some agents do different levels. I've never done that. I give the same level of service to everybody. I do make sure I know who I'm talking to, and if I don't have a lot of information on who I'm speaking with, I ask a lot of questions. So I basically go in asking questions first. I also make sure I know what's going on around me, because if the house next door just sold or just went on the market and I don't know it, they're gonna go, nice to see, you know, nice knowing you. So I think the strategies that change is just the conversation specific to what they want. Like, some people can't be, you know, different types of personalities. I remember my first $3 million house. They didn't care how high we went. It already had an accepted offer. They just wanted us to get it. This was on the buy side. And they didn't go to the inspection because they didn't care. They wanted the house. So if I'm talking to a seller, I need to know what the motivation is for sale. You know, do they want type dollar because they think their house is the Taj Mahal and they think they deserve it? Or do they want out immediately because there's another home that's 10 times the Taj Mahal that they want, and in order to get that one, they've got to sell this one. So motivation, I think, is going to tailor how I have a conversation with them. I'm going to listen. I'm going to repeat what they say.
That makes sense. So, but what you touch on is that you do the research, right? So when you go to a high net worth client, please make sure you do the research first.
Oh, absolutely.
Don't just go in and say, hey, let me walk through and like go to LinkedIn, go to Facebook, go to any social media, look up the names and see who they are, what did they do for a living, and get to know them in the back end. Because you want to be able to relate some of the conversation you have with them. You can't go to a high net worth person who is going to trust you with a $3-4 million homes and you don't know anything about them, or at least able to talk their language,
Yeah.
right? So that's
Most
really
most of
important.
the listing appointments that I go on like that, I've been introduced by somebody that I know well, an agent or a past client or colleague or friend. So I oftentimes will get that information from the person referring. However, I'm not really good at Googling people, and I can't find anybody. I don't know how everybody does it. But my admin, my ops manager is really good at it. All I have to do is give her a name, and she knows everything about them. So yes, I agree with you 100%.
And I have to tell you, like some of my high level clients, when we like, you know, I'm the listing agent, we bring them offer. The first thing they do is say, hey, did you Google them? Did you do a LinkedIn check on them?
They do it, yeah, you're
they
right.
do it. So you better be the first one to do it, knowing those information. They say, hey, by the way, they live in Jersey City, they own this house, but they say they don't have to sell it, and they're in financing, one's working for Google, like, because, listen, they're not allowed to write a letter, right? Remember that, right? No one's allowed to write a letter. But it doesn't mean that you cannot do the research on your own to find out as much as you can about them, right? Sometimes agent may share, sometimes they may not, but listen as much as you can, but definitely do that research because it's gonna help you to identify which is the right offer to accept also, okay?
And then I would say stay with it through the course of the listing because things happen. You know, we have that listing right now in Rockland, and his son was just nominated for the Brutalist. They had 10 awards. So he's over there jumping up and celebrating, and I'm thinking I'm going to tell him we're going to lower the price on his house because, you know, blah, blah, blah. But luckily, my ops manager, who pays attention to all those little things, says to me, you know, his son just got nominated for the Brutalist. He's the executive producer or whatever. So instead of saying to him, hey, let's look at your price point, I said, congratulations. I'm so excited for you and your son, you know, and it was a total, like the whole conversation had an uplifting feel. And then by the end, when we did have a conversation about what we're doing with this house, it was like colleague to colleague or friend to friend, not friend to friend, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like I have no clue what's going on in his life, and all of a sudden I want to hit my agenda up.
Yeah.
They don't, and I feel like with maybe some high net worth people, like they're into brands, right? You open up their closet and what do you?
It's how you portray yourself and how you give them information. So I'm going to talk about marketing a little bit, okay?
Sure.
So marketing, we go all out on marketing. So we have a seller guide that is professional done, and it's about 24 pages. And we don't always leave it for the client, but they can see it. You want to make sure you present yourself as the luxury agent as much as possible, right? And then you want to show them that you have done luxury listing that is actually high end. We have many. So all the listing I do, I save all my brochure, every single one of them, okay? When I go to appointments, I make sure I show them 3 or 4. Not all of them, but at least they know that I do high-end clients, okay? Because that's really important. So this is a what? A 20-page brochure? This is not a 2-page brochure, all right? Again, remember, your brochure is not really for the people out there. It's really for your seller most of the time, just so you know, okay? So do your seller love to see this? You want to make sure it go on and on and on, presenting that they see everything they want to see. We break it down by floor plan, information's like all the write-ups. We have someone professional write it for us, and then we have all the information. This was produced professionally as well. You can try to get a $4 or $5 million listing and not have it professionally done. So don't try to do this yourself. Definitely get someone to do it for you, and you can proofread it. That's something you can do. And also, definitely share with your client. They love to see this stuff. Okay. And then what we do is that we also do what you need to know is that you need to know your niche market and who you work with and everything. So you can be in could be in Chatham, Summit, Madison, whatever, right? Pick a category, pick an area. We do mail pieces out, okay, as marketing. This is a quarterly mailing report that we do out every quarterly, right? When you're consistently sending your stuff out, our name's on it, our marketing's on it, branding's on it, but generally people don't even look at this. When we get a phone call, it just say, hey, this is Simon, how can I help you? I never get to a level that they ask me about their brokerage, because it shouldn't get to that point. Like, you should able to talk to them, being confidence and having that skill, and able to say, hey, you know what, we're here to serve you, and you can see that we have their local market. We understand the local market, and this is all the homes we have sold, and this would be your best to work with us. Yeah.
So when I joined Guaranteed Rate 12 years ago, there was like nobody in New Jersey. Like, I was like one of the first Jersey people. So when people would say like, who's Guaranteed Rate? And I'm like, I'm so glad you asked. Because most people, you know, if they're not looking for a house, they might not pay attention to that stuff. You know, like if you're dealing with first time home buyers. But EXP has a great story, because you could say, oh, you know, you guys are a California-based company, right? And you can say, now we've expanded, and what they've done is they've recruited all the top agents in this area to join their platform. So you're kind of now giving yourself like a plug,
Right.
saying like they came after me because like they're expanding into New Jersey. I mean, you got, how many agents you have in Jersey now? I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, we have almost 4,000, close to it, and there's over 90,000 in
90,000
in the U.S. and international, and definitely the top 1% is going. The pros are going there. We just have someone who was doing $350 million, who was at a different company, just came over. We have another one that's actually another local agent that's due about $80 million that just came over. It's definitely where.
I think it's a great question, because now they're
Yeah.
opening up to you, so now you can kind of like brag about your company. You can say, oh,
Better,
yeah.
but I mean, Doug and I got the listing, but in Westfield, like, you don't see any EXP signs.
Not yet.
Well, we've had two, but, you know, it was a little bit of a battle. Like, they did end up going with us, but like,
I
they
think
were like, all we see is Coco Bank.
Just one quick thing, because I think it's great for whatever brand you're at, because I know people are,
Yeah.
we have like 10 different brands here today. And Westfield's a great example, because like knowing your market, knowing that actually Coldwell kind of owns
They
it.
do.
And like I remember when we were at KW, we had the same kind of challenge in the beginning, so.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's great that we're,
Yeah.
it's going to get better, but it's like, I think when you're like not a huge team, like you are, and you've been in the business, like when you're someone who hasn't been around as long, like, you know, there is a little bit more of a battle.
So,
Yeah,
I actually-
make
yeah.
friends at, like, for whatever brokerage you're at, know some other people that are busy there, make alliances, because like we're happy to give you a boost
Yeah.
there, or anyone that's with our brands, like for that.
Mhm.
I'd say, and if you're whatever other brand you're at today, because I know there's lots of brands, like make that leverage, have a couple good relationships.
Yeah.
We did it, like our former brand as well,
Mhm.
like that in the beginning, and it does help.
Yeah.
So, just
And I actually think that's great that no one's there, because you could be the one there and dominate that area. So like that's how you have
Yeah.
to that's how you have to look at it. You need to
Well-
you need to have that mindset in yourself and say, I'm
he
here.
just took the words right out of my mouth. Mindset.
Yeah, you need to like say, I'm gonna take over this place. It doesn't matter. Don't compare yourself to anybody. Never do that. Doesn't matter who has the market share, what they have. You are here to do it because you know what? You're good at what you do, right? You're good at what you do, right? Everybody, you know what you're doing, right? So you need to make sure you just have that mindset. Say, hey, you know what? It's great. And it's great that look for area that doesn't have a lot of agent, like, or doesn't have a lot of like someone who doesn't do a lot of high-end market area. That's another way to get into it, because then you can concentrate on that niche market, right? So again, you can see one or two agent that does a lot, but then you could be. It's okay to be a third agent. It's okay to be the fourth agent, but get in there, and it's really you want to create that mindset that you are good. You know what you're talking about. This is why you're doing this, right? Once you have that, before you go to a listing appointment, make sure you get there early, 5 minutes early, sit in your car, and just like pump yourself up. Like, because when that question comes up, I really never really talk about it too much, to be honest with you, because that hasn't come up to me. I mean, I'm getting this in some.
I'm going to add on to
yeah.
the mindset thing. I do think we're our own worst enemies. We think that, so we think they think that. And I remember when I was making the move to EXP, I was working with a $3 million a listing and a buyer. And I remember kind of dreading having that conversation, not knowing exactly how it was going to go. And one of them said, "Who are you with?" Because they didn't even realize who I was with. And the other one said they had read a lot about EXP and that it was a forward-thinking, cloud-based, and they happen to work for Meta, so maybe I'm thinking they think like I think, but they don't. They think like they think. So I think mindset and knowing that I'd rather list, if I was listing my own home, I would rather list with the best agent in a company I didn't know than one of the not so great agents in the really popular company. That I believe in. And so I can relay that when I go on that listing appointment because I believe it. If I'm trying to convince them that so-and-so has as much luxury, market share as the other, I might not believe that myself. I might not be able to sell it, but I know I'm going to do the best job for them. I know that, what I say is going to be true. So I'm going to, and that they can feel that. They know that.
And and many times, let your client will ask you to change your broker compensation, okay? Because they feel that they at a high price point, you should make XYZ less, right? I have never changed my broker compensation. There's agent out there who's offer less, going to the appointments, same with me, and they decide to work with me or our team or whatever. So always, they will ask. Everyone will ask. Doesn't mean you have to say yes. Because as soon as you say yes, you lost the control, right? You need to be in control of the seat. You can say, "Hey, I'm glad you asked, but this is what my service is, and let's just go back over. This is what I'm providing you, right?" And then say, "Hey, is the other agent also offering you all the services?" And generally, they say no, right? So know what you're worth. That's really important, right? And so now let's get to the things that you talk to listing when you go to listing.